Niko Jenkins, the story of the world's most dangerous prisoner. Even after introducing so many reformed laws and advanced crime-solving techniques, crimes are happening everywhere in today's world. People are so obsessed with true crime documentaries and fictional crime dramas because they resemble the practical world too much. Not only does it give us the thrill of solving a case and finding the truth, but it also helps to warn us and keep us aware of potential crimes that might happen. So people who frequently watch the news or are very interested in crime stories might have heard the name Niko Jenkins. A few years ago, he made quite the headlines because of his killing spree that earned him the title of one of the world's most dangerous prisoners. But how did he do it? And how much do you know about this dangerous killer and the reason behind the crimes he committed? We'll help you find that out in today's video, so watch till the end to find the whole story. Just think once. This man named Niko Jenkins has been sentenced to 450 years in prison. How many of you and how often have you ever heard about someone like this? Almost never, right? So you get the idea of the extent of his crimes. So let's start from the very beginning of the story. Niko Allen Jenkins, also known as Nicholas Jenkins, was born in 1986 on 16th September. He is an American spree killer of white lineages, convicted of executing 4 killings in August of 2013 in Omaha, Nebraska. And what is surprising is that all 4 murders happened in less than a month, right after he was acquitted from jail after completing his penalty of 10.5 years of the 18 years of the sentence that he had received for a carjacking that he had perpetrated at the age of 15, and also for the murder of assaults he had committed while serving in prison. Nicholas was born to parents Lori Jenkins and David A. McGee, but his father was not an ordinary man. His father was sentenced for numerous crimes, of them even including terroristic threats, before his death in the year 2009. His mother was also indicted as a fugitive who possessed ammunition in 2013. When Niko was only 7 years old, he was confined for carrying a gun to Highland Elementary School where he studied. So you know where he perhaps got this from. From then on, his crimes only advanced. When he reached 16, he was sentenced to 21 years in prison for a carjacking he did when he was a year younger. While in prison, he also attacked a security guard on duty, not once, but twice, and even took part in a prison riot. Niko was brought up in Nebraska alongside his 5 other siblings. Niko was exposed to crimes from a very young age. One of his sisters, Erica Jenkins, has even received a prison sentence for helping him in his crimes. As we said, it runs in the family. So now let's move on to the 4 infamous murders he committed. On the 11th of August 2013, at around 5 o'clock in the morning, an officer, while patrolling, found 2 bodies lying in a white-color Ford pickup truck. The vehicle was parked close to a swimming pool in the city at 18th and F Street in Spring Lake Park. Both the victims were successfully identified by the police as Jorge Cajiga Ruiz and Juan Uribe Peña, respectively. They were killed by being shot in their heads, and their pockets' insides were deliberately turned out. So how did they reach the area of crime? They were both lured to the crime scene in disguise to meet women for an intimate encounter. Niko's murder spree began with this heinous double murder that he committed less than 14 days after being released on the 30th of July. Just 8 days after the random double killings, at about 7 o'clock in the morning on the 19th of August, the body of a man named Curtis Bradford was discovered outside an independent garage near 18th and Clark Street. This wasn't initially discovered by police this time. Instead, it was found by a man returning from home from his night shift at a local amenity store, who then reported it to the police. When the detectives arrived at the crime scene and examined Curtis's body, they found 2 bullet wounds on his back. Later, it was uncovered that Niko and Bradford had clicked a picture together the day before the crime, and it was posted on Facebook. This brings an interesting aspect to this particular murder because, out of all the killings by Jenkins, Curtis was the only victim familiar to him. The 4th and final murder victim of Niko Jenkins was a woman named Andrea Kruger. Merely 2 days after Bradford's body was found, the deputy sheriff responded to another murder call and discovered the body of Andrea on 21st August at around 2 o'clock in the morning. The dead body of the final victim was lying near the road at 168th and 4th Street. On examining the body, several shotgun wounds 12 gauge were found on her face, shoulder, and neck. Andrea was supposedly returning home after completing her bartending shift close to 178th and Pacific Street. Surveillance camera footage revealed that she had shut down the Deja Vu Lounge at around 1:47 a.m. On the same day of Kruger's murder, at about 6:30 in the evening, her gold Chevrolet Traverse SUV was discovered abandoned about 12 miles or 19 kilometers away from the crime scene near an alley at 43rd and Charles Street. In the following week, in a news conference held by Tim Dunning, the Douglas County Sheriff, it was stated by him that the detectives speculated that the SUV was abandoned approximately 180 minutes or 2.5 hours after it was stolen. They further also disclosed that they believe a weak attempt was made at settling the interior of the vehicle on fire. When and how was Niko arrested? On the 30th of August in 2013, Niko was imprisoned on a terroristic threat charge unconnected to the murders. This charge was reported by none other than his wife, Niko Jenkins. They are now divorced. But by then, there was evidence mounted against Niko. The detectives found the image of a woman on surveillance camera footage at a regional gun store. She was buying the same kind of distinct ammunition, namely a Brennecke Classic Magnum 12 gauge, typically known as deer slugs that were identical to the one used to execute the murders. Additional footage was also recovered from the cameras along the path to Andrea's abandoned SUV. On the 3rd of September, Niko admitted to committing all 4 murders in a rambling evening interview of 8 hours. But this is not it. Here's where the insane revelations start. Jenkins informed the police that he only committed the acts as a sacrifice to Apophis. If you're wondering who Apophis is, then don't worry, we'll tell you. He's an archaic Egyptian demon of mayhem who retained the shape of a serpent and was the adversary of the sun god. And even though many serpents exemplify royalty and divinity, Apophis compelled the underworld and embodied evil. After that, he was indicted with 4 killing records following the declaration. The trial. In a series of handwritten letters on the 3rd of November of 2013, Niko submitted to the Omaha prosecutors, World Herald, and a magistrate. Jenkins wrote that he hoped to plead guilty to all charges in the 4 killings and that he would safeguard the kingdom of Apophis with savage and animalistic brutality. In February of the next year, Jenkins cataloged a federal lawsuit aiming at $24.5 million from the state of Nebraska for wrongfully acquiring him from the cell. Imagine the insanity this man possesses. He further stated that his assertions of hearing orders from his Apophis were continually ignored. In the handwritten filing, 6 pages long, he asserted that since he was restrained in solitary confinement, it bolstered his schizophrenia. He also blamed corrections officers for the 4 murders. Jenkins also contended that his troubles were induced by mental illness and that he suffered from several problems, such as obsessive-compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder. So the judge ruled his psychiatric evaluation by the medical officers. After evaluating him, the psychiatrist inferred that the spree killer only suffered from an antisocial personality disorder and was counterfeiting the rest's psychotic symptoms. So he was approved to go on trial, and after that the court proceedings against Jenkins began. On Niko's request, he was authorized to represent himself at the court session under the direction of advisory solicitors. However, as the entire trial went on, Jenkins upheld his initial claims that he works under the orders of Apophis. His antics in the courtroom encompassed howling, speaking in tongues, and chuckling as prosecutors recited the details and circumstances of the death of the 4 victims. He was ruled guilty of perpetrating all 4 murders on the 16th of April in 2014, under the judgment of Peter Bataillon. As a result, Jenkins was originally slated to be convicted on the 11th of August 2014. The date, however, was postponed indefinitely, proceeding to a hearing brandished to deduce whether he was competent in comprehending the death penalty proceedings against him. On the 29th of July, Judge Bataillon decreed Niko to be guarded at the Lincoln Regional Center Psychiatric Infirmary until physicians were convinced of his condition, which the doctors refused due to insufficient security. So he was treated at the Lincoln prison. In May 2017, Niko was convicted of casualty by a 3-judge committee. He was also penalized 450 years in prison on charges of weapons related to the killings. In April 2020, the Supreme Court of the United States of America refused to hear his plea. Niko is still detained at the Nebraska Correctional Facility and is yet to be executed. His attorneys explain that Jenkins is too mentally ill to go through execution. He has injured himself in several ways in his prison cell, including engraving 666 on his forehead. This is why we call him the world's most dangerous prisoner. That's it for today. But for more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any notification. Thanks for watching.